Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and tonight on Hercules and the Space Gods, I am proud to bring you Disclosure Network with the one, the only, the legendary Nick Curto. Greetings, Nick. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much for your very kind introduction. I'm really excellent. Today I did a tour of New York City, the Gramercy Park area, with my guest for next Saturday, which is Joyce Gold. She is a historian. She is steeped in the knowledge of New York City and the history of it, and she took her passion and her interest and created tours of New York City. She's going on her 48th year of doing tours, and nobody does it better than Joyce Gold. And she's my guest for next week.
I'm looking forward to next week's show, and I'm also looking forward to tonight's show. I'll be here in the ethers if you need me.
Thank you very much, Hercules. Again, the show is Disclosure Network with Nick Curto, and I'm Nick Curto, your host. Disclosure Network, I can't believe it's been 26 years of 2 meetings per month in Manhattan to go deeply into the areas of ET, of UFO, of all the related subjects that are surround that incredible area. We've got people now in our group, not only from America, but from Canada, from Hawaii, and Europe, parts of Europe. And these are people who dig deep and send me news clips or their own reports or their own photographs that they've seen things in the sky and were fortunate enough to photograph them. And then we meet and share that information twice a month. You can get us at dnny.info, www.ednny.info, and we can give you more about the membership of the organization. And I'm very proud of it and everybody in it. It's the best group we've ever had, and we're learning so much together. Tonight, I am so excited because I have as my special guest a longtime friend, and I have to say, a thrilling lecturer. I've heard many of his talks, and he always has the room absolutely listening. You could hear a pin drop every time Mark Kimmel has spoken about what he is concerned about, what his knowledge is, and what his message is for all of us. Mark Kimmel, welcome to the show.
Nick, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
You were one of those people that I always want to be around because you're always digging deep into the most certainly sensitive areas, some of the most important areas of all of our lives. And you have been doing that for many, many years. And you have a number of books. I've seen them on Amazon. Mark, maybe we should start, Mark, with how you first got interested in the entire subject that we're talking about tonight. How did that happen?
Nick, I had been in the business world for a number of years. Then all of a sudden, I just turned my back on that. I resigned from all my boards of directors. I resigned from my company. And I said, okay, it's time to go and do something totally different. And so I decided I'd go back to school and get a master's in psychology to figure out what's going on with me and with everybody else. Because I'd been working with business people for 30 years in the high tech area. So I was back in school and I was 2 years into that master's program. And all of a sudden, this book spills out of my computer. And this was my very first book. I never intended to write a book or anything like that. But this book was about extraterrestrials. It was about a group of extraterrestrials in the Arizona desert who had come to try to benefit to humanity. And so that was the beginning of my interest in this whole area. I had had no experiences until then, nothing. then a couple of years later, I finished the book, and I was ready to go and publish that book. And it was done in story form because I wasn't quite sure what I was doing, and so I figured I'd do it in story form, and because I didn't have a bunch of facts at my control. And so I went into I spent a week with Stephen Greer in the what's called was by the Sand Dunes National Monument in Colorado, a little town called Crestone. And there I had some amazing experiences. We uh, we were out that first night. What happens with Steve is you sit in a group of 40 people usually, and you're always in a circle because you want to look all the different directions, and so people can keep an eye on the sky and look for phenomena. So
You know,
I was
Mark, the people have said to me in the group that they always were interested in the subject matter, but when they actually had a personal experience, such as, not limited to, but such as seeing something in the sky, whether it was the day or the nighttime, that that clearly was not of this planet, that it had nothing to do with any of the technology they knew about. It didn't look like anything they've ever seen. And that was a turning point for many people to say, okay, now I got it. Now we are not alone. I need to know more. And I get that a lot. And during my group, when we meet, uh, every single time someone says, you know, it's so wonderful to be able to speak about these subjects because I really can't talk about them to my neighbors and sometimes my relatives or my husband or wife or my partner because I'm just afraid I might be ridiculed. And
uh,
there is an element of that I think you well know that still goes on. And I think
and,
your books and your research and the things that have happened in your life are paving the way for a bright tomorrow of truth. And that's what we all are wanting here, the truth about what's going on.
well, and all of my research and all of my experiences have now got me to a place where I'm seeing things quite different than most other people do. I've had a lot of interactions with extraterrestrials, and the way I get interactions is um, I get them telepathically. So I have the ability to communicate with extraterrestrials telepathically. But I didn't know that. So let's step back for just a minute before we jump there.
Okay.
And let me talk about this because my experiences with Greer in the field, the very first night I was there with him, I happened to be sitting next to him, and he had a laser pointer, and so we were in with C SETI and Greer. You go into a meditative state, and you ask the ETs to show up, and that's the protocol. So I was sitting there with him, and all of a sudden this laser pointer right across, and I opened my eyes, and it said, and so Steve says, "Look at that, look at that up there." And he said, "See that?" And all of a sudden there's this bright, shiny disc in the sky, and he said, "That's kindness." And so kindness, he pointed the laser at it, and it goes like this, all the way out into the space. So that was my introduction that very first night. And then later in later in that same night, we were sitting there and I'm faced to the south towards Mount Blanca, and there are two red lights that all of a sudden begin to appear as they were moving towards us. Red lights. They were not flashing or anything. They were just red lights, and they came closer and closer. We couldn't really see much of any definition of anything, but they were clearly not uh, of normal, normal human type things. Okay, and so um, after a while, they came close, and then they stopped. and then they backed off and went back. And so I said, okay, what's going on here? And he said, well, they sensed that there was too much fear in this group and they couldn't come any closer. And so that was my second introduction that night. The next night we were out there, there were two craft that came and settled kind of in the southwest next to a moon, a bright moon. So there's two craft that I would call them craft now because that's what I have know what they are. But they're, you know, they're brighter than any star, not as bright as the moon, but they're settling there. And, you know, at night you can't really tell whether something's far away and large or up close and small. I mean, you just can't. The way that is where we were seated, however, was next to the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. And so in a while, all of a sudden, here's two American-made jets coming full speed, afterburners on, coming across the mountains. And they're headed exactly towards the moon and these two craft. Well, they approached those two craft and all of a sudden they winked out. They just disappeared. And so I said, okay, once again, what's going on? And he said, well, we have the ability to shoot down these extraterrestrial craft if we can get close to them. We have that ability. So that explains, in my mind, the whole subject of Roswell and how Roswell happened. In that, what happened with Roswell, there was an ET craft there, and there was radar, high intensity radar directed towards that craft, and that completely disabled its navigation system and caused it to crash. So now all of a sudden we got these physical manifestations of everything. So I went home and looked at the book, and I said, okay, what happened now? And I said, okay, I have seen this, but I wrote the whole book. The book spilled out of my computer, and I hadn't, you know, this was 2 years before I'd had this adventure with Greer. And so I had to go back and adjust just one thing in the book. Because in the book, I had described these ETs traveling for years and years to get here. And I now understood that no, they don't have to travel years and years. They simply disappear. So they go into a higher density. So that's part of the story. What has happened to me now in the subsequent times is I've had communications with over 200 different ET communications, and they're giving me information, commenting on their observations of us and what they see about our society, how we're screwing up the earth, how we're screwing up everything, and how we're doing wars with each other, and all of which is totally because I've never had an experience with an undesirable ET. That's all Hollywood. Every experience I've had with ETs, they are very benevolent and very gentle. And so that's where I'm coming from.
I've had observations, and every time we've seen in the sky, either alone or with many people, I've always felt not threatened, but I felt as though they were observing, they knew exactly where we were. And that's been proven by the path of some of the UFOs that have passed directly over our head. In one case, a ship, a triangular ship, literally stopped directly over my group. And this was in Central Park of New York City, and right in back of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And it was at night. It was a brilliantly clear sky. And when three white lights started coming from the horizon, and one of my people in my group yelled, "Turn around and look up, everybody." And we did. And it was slowly moving. And when it got over our heads, it stopped, marked for about 15, 20 seconds, and then continued. And I think we all interpreted that as it was kind of like, we know you're there, hello. It was that sort of a feeling. So anyhow, I just wanted to put that on the table.
After several years of investigation, I would say that that is probably a craft of our own design. In other words, it is a US manufactured craft because we have the ability to go and to manufacture vehicles that are capable of leaving our atmosphere, not rockets. No, rockets are for NASA. I'm talking about the secret spacecraft and all that type of things. So I thought, without being sure, Nick, I'm guessing that what you saw with that triangular craft was one of the designs by the US Navy, secret project by the Navy.
I did an interview a few years ago with Dr. Stephen Greer, and one of the things he said was, if you get to the point that you can see it fairly clearly, see if it's a solid vehicle with no attachments or places where things are bolted together or not. If it's one solid piece, it's theirs. If it's bolted in some ways and you can see it, it's ours. Isn't that interesting?
That would be my understanding also. Yes. The
And,
way in which they create craft. Well, first of all, they're operating from a higher dimension. So a lot of what we see are projections that they want us to see. They aren't the actual craft at all. And so I'm not sure what you saw. It could have been a projection, but it could have been also US made in the US.
mm-hmm.
Some of the information I have is I have a good friend, and we'll come and comment on this another time. But she was on the moon. She was taken there as a, uh, she was in the military. She was taken to the moon, and she stayed there, and she also was taken to Mars. So this is a very interesting type of person. She's a good friend of mine. And so there are other people who have also testified that they have been to the moon and not with conventional transportation like rockets.
Do you
And
think
I
if,
don't, I don't, have you run into that, Nick?
yeah, oh boy, yes, indeed. I'm just thinking to myself what you just said. I wonder if she would consent to be on my program and talk about what has been in her life. If I don't know her, so you do. I don't know if she'd welcome an interview like that.
How about if I ask her?
Thank you very much, because
Yeah.
I do look for people like that that will give us shed some light on the darkness that's still very much around us. Aggressively, in some cases, aggressively lacking uh, truth, and it's aggressively spitting things that don't make any sense at all, and you feel as though you're getting just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to information. I think most of us feel that.
Yeah, I think we're being played by what I will call the dark state or the silent state or the hidden state, a lot of names for it. It's those who would like to go and control the entire planet, but they haven't succeeded it because there's enough of us that know what's going on to keeps them from. But uh, you know, we have elections, we have a government, and that type of thing. I think a lot of that is strictly for our benefit. I think those who are really controlling things are silent and hidden.
There's some thinking, and I'm sure you've heard this many times, that they're not telling us the truth to protect us. I think you've heard that. What is your comment on that kind of statement?
I think there are enough people that know what's going on that they don't have to protect us from anything. I think people would welcome uh, opening up the entire thing.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely
Yeah,
agree with that. Yes.
the initial response from people when you talk about extraterrestrials is they think about Star Wars and Star Trek and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And you have to get them past that. And then you can start making sense to them.
Yeah, absolutely true. Um, another thing that comes up a lot is the whole subject of religion and spirituality, because obviously there are elements of sightings in the sky of people getting messages telepathically that are hard to explain. Some people explain it by their religious beliefs, and they go by that as a path to try to explain what's going on. I'm sure you've heard of that too. And again, it's got to be whatever the truth is for people, that from their background, from their culture, from their knowledge, from their research, trying to put it together. And I think we all are in that boat. The Disclosure Network New York certainly is in that boat. We're trying to make sense of it. We're trying to understand the truth. Our motto, right from day one, was connecting the dots to seek truth. And that really has always been our objective. And we welcome people with different points of view, because we have to put that on the table, and then think about what they're saying, and see if that resonates with us. What should we go from here, Mark? What would you like to explore as far as what we're
It was
doing
just
tonight?
so this is totally you sprung this on me, so I'm not sure where we're going with it, Nick. Um,
In any particular area that you'd like to explore would be welcome, certainly.
okay. Oh, let's see where we go. I'm looking at some notes here that I put together, which might make some sense.
Okay.
You and I talk uh, once every couple of weeks on Zoom. I think one of the things that people have said to me is that we are in the middle of World War III. I don't know if you've heard that expression or not.
Oh yeah, that's going on a lot. Yep.
So World War III, except it's not being carried on with tanks and guns and bombs and soldiers and that type of thing.
Fear,
It's
lots of
being
fear.
it's being carried on with computers and the internet and all of the medical things they're trying to thrust upon us and so on. Uh, and so, we look at World War III, and there's those of us that are on the front lines, such as you and me and uh, Hercules. You probably know uh, a lot about this also. But I think that we are the frontline soldiers saying that no, we're not having a physical war, we're having a spiritual war.
Okay.
But not a spiritual war in the sense of a good spiritual war. We're having a spiritual war in the sense that we don't see it, we don't sense it. It is simply being carried out on this by the secret government, the
Hmm.
Illuminati, and people like that who want to somehow they control the world for whatever reason. And whether or not they are in league with offshore or off planet people remains to be seen. Because most of the off planet people that I know are all very benevolent. So, yes, there must be some there must be some people who are cooperating with a dark intelligence, shall we say, off-planet intelligence. But Nick, I have never encountered any of that personally. Everything that has been for me is always very benevolent, very, very, very happy, very. They'll be critical of what's going on with us, but nothing, nothing to be feared. Okay.
You know, part of the answer, I think this is a personal feeling I have that somehow resonates, is that you and my group, I think everybody in my group, Disclosure Network New York, is looking at this from the point of contact, of love, of hope, of not being afraid to explore this amazing area. And I think that when you think that and believe that in your heart, I believe that that resonates out. And it is almost like a welcome mat saying, I'm here to learn. I'm here to contact. That's what I want. And I want peace and I want love in my life and I want to understand the truth. And I think that's very powerful. And I think that, again, people have told me that that is powerful and that it's not going on deaf ears at all. I think you'd agree with that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There's some very powerful forces at work here, and we can talk about them another time. I'm not prepared tonight to really talk to get into that.
Sure. There's so much to the subject, and it's always disturbing. And I've been asked this many times: why the guarding? Why the aggressiveness of giving us false information? Of NASA actually blurring some of the things that are being seen on camera, and that's not even a secret. That there's parts of when they release photographs, that there's parts of those photographs that are clearly blurted out, blurred to the extent that you don't know what you're seeing, and that is an area of control, and that's very disturbing to me and a lot of people. Of because control has to be something that we don't want, that we don't want to be controlled and used like that. We don't. No one likes that feeling, and yet that seems to be the case from about 75 years ago, coming on right now. It's still there. Would you agree with that?
I think that this whole control thing started after the Second World War.
Okay.
That's when it started. That's when the United States was feeling very, very good about everything because they basically had won the Second World War. And so there were people within the higher ranks of government and military that saw it as an opportunity. Well, okay, we have won. Maybe there's a way we can take over the world. And of course, we brought Nazi scientists to the United States, and they were put in positions of high positions in government and corporations, and they wanted to carry on their idea also. So I think that's when it started, was then, and it has grown and grown and grown, and become more and more hidden.
There's an expression recently used called the enemy within. And that's been out there a lot recently too, the enemy within. And I have heard conversations where people will say, Nick, we didn't win the war. We didn't win World War II. We didn't. It's still very much alive and well, only it's taken different forms. And that is profound and incredibly disturbing. They're saying that the major government, a lot of the major government groups, CIA, FBI, so forth, that there's elements in there that are truly not our friends at all. And that the whole purpose is to aggressively control the masses on various levels.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think it's more obvious now than ever. Do you feel that it's like the mask is coming off, so to speak?
it seems to me over the last say 20 years
Hmm.
that things have become increasingly more polarized, if you will,
Yep.
and that the dark has become more outspoken. The dark has become, uh, I look at the civility we used to have amongst us, and I think that that's one measure I would look at and say, all right, people no longer go and want to cooperate. Everything is clash. I see. So we're all clashing with each other. And I think that's a function of disrupting us, of disrupting our lives. So we don't know who to trust. We don't know who to love. We don't really know. We've lost our footing. We lost our basis. So that's what's
I think
going
you're
on.
absolutely right on that. And many people have said exactly what you just said too, that that is going on. When I was a kid, we had Walter Cronkite, and everybody, including my family and me, whatever Walter Cronkite said was absolutely true. We felt as though he was giving us the real deal. He was telling us the truth, and he had that kind of air about him. I think we can all agree to that. That and we saw him when the landing on the moon took place. It was Walter Cronkite that we were listening to, and I remember he teared up a little bit, and we felt as though he was sincerely, quite emotionally uh, upset, and in a good way, about the fact that we really did make it and that really we were there. And so we trusted him. And I'm going to go right to what's going on right now. When I occasionally go to the networks to hear the half-hour news, it's not what it was at all. In fact, I clocked it, and they do a couple of minutes of news, so to speak, and then they go to 3 or 4 commercials. And then, listen to this, they go for 30 seconds of a story, 30 seconds, and then they go back to about 10, 7 to 10 mini commercials again. So the half hour of news turns out to be maybe 10 minutes, as it turns out. And what
Well,
they're
Dick,
telling us,
you're also missing the half of the story, which is opinion about what's
yes,
going on, not
yeah,
the story itself, but is somebody's commenting on the story or their opinion or their perspective. Yeah, so that's no longer news.
absolutely. And another thing too that they're doing, and it's so obvious, is they'll do a couple of warm, cuddly kinds of stories, like the firemen rescued a dog that was trapped in a sewer, and they'll do that on the world news. And I'm thinking, well, that's a lovely story, but we're talking about hard news, the things that really matter worldwide. And there's so many things that they won't ever go near, won't cover at all, and it's very disturbing.
Well, then they will go and talk about personalities, but they never talk about the programs that the personalities are undertaking.
Mhm.
So we have no idea what's really going on. All we know is that this is a good looking or this is a bad. And they've said some bad things and we just attack each other like that. So they attack personalities back and forth constantly.
Absolutely true. And you're left at the end of that half hour with really not knowing the news. Not
Well,
really, not what's going to affect us, our families and friends, what economically, what China is doing, what the
no.
Soviet Union is doing. I mean, we're getting a little bit of that, but I don't think anyone is feeling that you're getting exactly what really is going on. And that is a very nerve-wracking feeling that keeps going on and on. And all of the news agencies are guilty of that. It's like, in fact, I saw a video where there was a phrase that was used on every single national as well as regional as well as local news. And they put it together, this wonderful group. I can't remember the name of them, but they took all the video clips and they played it, and they all had exactly the same phrase. Now, what are the chances that all of these various news agencies would have the exact same phrase? No, they're reading from a script. And that is very disturbing.
That's right.
You know, it's like, oh boy. Anyhow, getting back to
They're going back, they're dealing with personalities also. And analyzing personalities of people, not
yeah,
analyzing programs.
absolutely true. As far as our friends from other parts of the universe go, do they see us as, how shall I say this? We need help, and they're here to help us. Do you get the feeling that that is the overall message, that they're here to see what we are, who we are, what we're up to, and try to help us perhaps keep out of weaponry, keep out of annihilating ourselves? Do you get messages like that?
Well, there is the non-interference thing, which all of them are bound by. So they can't come in here with their, with big heavy boots and guns and that type of thing and take over. They can't do that. So they are dependent upon us. So what all they can do, Nick, is they can go and contact individuals like you and like me and the other people we know, and try to get us to go and step up and make some differences. But I don't know about you, but 90% of the people I know that I interact with have no interest in this. They don't want to go and talk about it. They really only are after what can I do to have a comfortable lifestyle.
Right.
I,
That's
I
that's
want
that's
I want enough money and pleasures, and don't bother me with all this stuff. So that is what has developed. To me, that's very dangerous. And that is what the ET communications are telling us.
Unfortunately, I think you're dead on correct on that. And I have a comfortable life, and I don't want any interference. I don't want to think about these things that might be troubling. I just don't want to hear about it. So let me live my life without any real knowledge of what's going on, and let's just hope for the best. And that is a very, I think, a sad and dangerous attitude to have. And I do see people that do have that. I've actually heard people say that. I can't control it, so why should I even bother thinking about it? Why should I even try to dig for the truth? I can't do anything about it, so just let me live my little life and make me happy, and that's it. And that's their decision.
And I
So
think that's where 80% of the people are.
yeah, and that
Uh,
boy, that is really that is something that's got to change. It just does, because
And
what they're
that's,
doing to their children and their children's children and so forth is cheating them out of truth, out of what's really going on. And it's like a speeding car, and who is the driver? Who is driving that speeding car? And I get that a lot from various people too, that you're feeling that. And of course, you have amazing friends, and I am blessed with friends like that too, that really do care, that really do want the truth. Let me have it. I can take it. Let's see what the really truth is and explore it. And God bless those people, because we need them. We need more of them.
yes, we do. Yes, we do. There's very, very few of us. But then if you look back at the American Revolution, it was only about 1% of the people that really wanted to withdraw. from England. The other people were scared. They didn't want to do it.
You know, a couple of years ago, I heard two women talking. I live in Manhattan and the Upper East Side, and two women were talking. I couldn't help but overhear them. And one of them said, I can't wear my favorite sweater that I have on. I can't wear this anymore. And the woman said, well, why not? And she said, because look, I have a big American flag on both sides of my sweater. And she said, I don't want to offend anybody. And I heard that, and Mark, I had to just just shut up because I just couldn't bear hearing anymore. She said, I don't want to upset anybody, so I better not wear my American sweater anymore with a big American flag on it. And I couldn't get that out of my head. I just couldn't. Like, oh my God, how many men and women have died fighting for freedom, fighting for our flag, fighting for our civilization. And now you're saying that you can't wear it on an American street. It bothered me so much that I went home and I wrote a new patriotic song. And I did. I did the lyrics, and then I heard the music in my mind, and I eventually contacted a recording studio, and we recorded it. And the name of the song is "We'll Stand Up for America." We'll stand up for America, and it shows shots of the American people in parades, in barbecues, in doing what they can on 4th of July, celebrating that day and so forth. And we got the video through many clips. And then there was just something else I needed. And I thought, oh, I know what it is. Yankee Doodle, the song Yankee Doodle Comes to Town, riding on a pony,
Yep.
which
Yep.
was it was a British song to embarrass the patriots of America that were fighting for our freedom to leave England once and for all. And they were singing that song to ridicule the people that were fighting for America. But there was a battle, and at that battle, the British were losing, and they had many more people and everything else, but they did, and they started running from the farmers who didn't have costumes, uniforms, didn't have the fancy muskets, but they were winning, and so the people, the American patriots, started singing that song loudly as they were running, as the British were running, and I put that on the beginning and the end of my rock song, "We'll Stand Up for America." So it starts off with a little bit of Americana, and then at the end of the rock song, it goes back a little bit to Yankee Doodle Dandy. And I just thought that was a really interesting dynamic to put in there. So it's on YouTube right
Yeah.
now. "We'll Stand Up for America." It's on there.
I'll have to go check it out, Nick. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's so many facets of this. We really do need to get back together another time when I'm a little bit better organized, because today you caught me without any organization at all.
Well, you did one heck of a job, as I knew you would, Mark, of course. And I'm looking so forward. I want you to kick off the new year with my program, Disclosure Network New York. And I know you have a dynamite presentation, PowerPoint. And so if it's okay with you, we could go with that next time and take a good look at that. Hercules, how are we doing? Oh, I can't hear you. The sound. This got to just unmute.
You're muted, Hercules.
There you go.
Hi, you're doing great. You got about 8 minutes until 0 point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mark,
Okay.
if you
I'm
could,
gonna. I have to bail out. I'm not feeling at all well, and I wasn't expecting this obviously tonight. So, Nick, I apologize, but I just okay.
oh no apology necessary. Mark, again, you're a dear beloved friend, and I thank you so much for your time to do the program tonight. Really wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, Hercules, nice to have met you.
Nice to
And
meet you too. Thank you for a wonderful show, and feel better.
I will. I'm planning on that. Thank you so much.
Excellent. So this is Nick Curto for Disclosure Network New York. And please search in your own life for truth. Look beyond what you're given on the news programs. Do your own research and see what you can find. And by the way, look at the skies, because sometimes you'll see something that, oh my goodness, that's not a normal plane. That is something else. And I have had those experiences. My group has had those experiences together and separately. And you have to be open to what's really going on. And so I leave you with that. Explore, and search for the truth. And the more you find, the clearer the picture will get. So with that, Hercules, thank you so much again for your wonderful network. It's a joy.
My pleasure, and thank you both again for an excellent show. Be well, my friends.
Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.